You see, there's a piece of information that just came out, the Biz News conference in the Drakensberg last week. And it is genuinely one of the most damning things I've heard about this government's foreign policy in quite a long time. And you'll understand why, because this is an outrage bait. It's not a hot take. It's three respected South African leaders who are sitting on a stage revealing that our government sat with their fat butts on a direct message from the White House and just didn't tell anyone. Nobody. They didn't bother. Dr. Corne Mulder, the leader of the Freedom Front Plus, Dr. Theo de Jager of the South African Agri Initiative, and Gerard Papenfuss, the CEO of NIESA. They all formed a part of an independent South African delegation that traveled to Washington, D.C., believe it or not, back in 2025. So this wasn't some rogue mission. This was people, serious people, trying to save South Africa's financial and general relationship with the country that supported them for 30 plus years. It was the United States that helped us during apartheid, and now we're spitting in their face. So they wanted to go to Washington to try and ease tensions, while our own government was busy setting it on fire because they had better things to do, you know? Why bother going to meet up with the person who gives you millions of rands a year? Right? We're too busy trying to get people to vote for us in the coming municipal elections. We don't have time for you, Trump. They met with senior White House officials, Dr. Corne Mulder and the squad, and Washington gave them 5 specific instructions for normalizing relations between the two countries. 5, not vague, not diplomatic mush, actual specific conditions. Look, you want to improve your relations with us? You want to show us that you still see us as a friend and not just people you're using for money? Then at least fulfill these 5 obligations for us. Number 1, address the ANC's association with the Kill the Boer song. That's all. Number 2, deal with farm killings as an actual priority crime because they're getting worse, and so are all the other crimes in your country. Number 3, sort out your BEE requirements that are scaring off our American investors. We can't be giving you money when we know you're just going to use it for BEE and screw over all South Africans. There's more black South Africans who don't have a job now than before BEE. Number 4, walk back expropriation without compensation. We don't want to hear anything about that. Stop taking people's land. Number 5, and this is the one, the big one rather, given everything happening in the Middle East right now, distance South Africa from Iran as we speak. The White House didn't just tell this to some random South African citizens for fun. It's not what the news tries to tell you. The White House specifically asked this delegation that visited them to carry that message back and get it into the South African public domain because apparently the official channels, I'm talking about the embassy, the formal diplomatic visits, they weren't cutting enough. They weren't cutting through, rather. So think about how insane that is for a second. Arguably, the most powerful country on earth had to recruit private South African citizens as messengers because they couldn't trust their own government to actually deliver the message honestly. You had to get private citizens because the government that runs those private citizens are corrupt to the core. And what did the ANC do with all this information? Well, according to Dr. Corne Mulder, and I'm going to paraphrase carefully here because this deserves to be said clearly, the ANC treated South Africa's foreign policy as exclusively its own domain and proceeded as if the American request simply did not exist. They didn't negotiate. There was no call. They didn't push back formally. They didn't even engage. Not a single Twitter post. Nothing. They just pretended a direct message from the United States government evaporated into thin air. The consequence? Well, America suspended its PEPFAR medical funding to South Africa. Remember when I was telling you how much millions America's giving to South Africa? I wasn't joking. In fact, I was giving an understatement. They give billions of rands, and it's all gone now. PEPFAR, for anyone who doesn't know, is the American HIV and AIDS Relief Program. That's one of the most successful global health interventions in modern history. And South Africa wiped their ass with it by saying, screw you, US, we don't want to listen to you anymore, but still give us money. So South Africa has been one of the USA's biggest beneficiaries for over 2 decades. The biggest, one of the biggest beneficiaries in the last 2 decades. That funding didn't disappear because America suddenly stopped caring about South African lives. I'll tell you the real reason why it disappeared. It disappeared because our own government decided that ignoring Washington was a visible foreign policy strategy. Mulder's actual words were that it's a pity the ANC allowed this critical opportunity to restore ties slip away at the expense of ordinary South Africans, and that the government cannot keep dragging its feet on this. Okay, I want to sit with this, and I want you to sit with this phrase for a second. At the expense of ordinary South Africans, not at the expense of ANC officials, not at the expense of anyone in a position of actual power. The people who lose access to HIV medication and have a higher chance of dying now, who lose clinic funding, who lose support programs, are regular South Africans who had absolutely nothing to do with this decision. They don't choose their circumstances, their corrupt government does it for them. And here's what gets me most. South Africa is not a country too small or too irrelevant to matter on the world stage. This is a government that is choosing repeatedly, deliberately, to treat international relationships as just something you can simply ignore without any consequence, right up until the consequence lands directly on the people who trusted them to actually govern. 5 conditions written down, and they were all ignored. They were delivered directly, they were ignored anyway. That is not principled independence. I don't care how you may marinate it. That's just recklessness. It's just recklessness with other people's well-being, if you ask me.